All right, get ready for this one because today we're diving into something pretty incredible. We're talking about why your heart is on the left side of your chest.
It's one of those things, right? You never really think about it, but the how, the why, the actual biology behind it, and that's a fascinating story.
Absolutely. And to tell that story, we're going way back to 1995, a time when scientists had a pretty good grasp on how an embryo develops a head and a tail, a front and a back, but left and right.
Yeah, left and right was a total head scratcher back then.
A complete mystery.
And this wasn't just some random research paper either. This is a big deal.
Huge.
I mean, try to imagine for a second, how do you even begin to study how a tiny developing embryo figures out left from right?
Okay, yeah. Just trying to picture that, it seems ridiculously hard. Where do you even start?
Well, you need the right subject. And for developmental biologists, that often means our feathered friends, chick embryos.
Okay, makes sense.
They develop outside the mother hen, right there out in the open, so to speak. And that gives you this incredible view of the whole process.
It's like having front row seats to a show that usually happens behind the curtain.
Exactly. And you
Yeah.
can imagine, even with a clear view, trying to manipulate a chick embryo back in 1995, that was no easy feat.
Oh, I bet. Talk about delicate work.
No kidding. But the researchers behind this paper, they were incredible. They were able to pinpoint 3 specific genes: activin receptor, EII, sonic hedgehog, or SH for short, and CNR1.
Okay, not the most catchy names, I'll admit, but hey, what these genes actually do, now that's going to be interesting, right?
Oh, absolutely. These genes, they're the stars of the show, the key players in this whole left-right puzzle. Think of them like a chain of dominoes, each one sitting off the next.
Okay, I like that analogy. So activin receptor ThiA, that's our first domino.
You got it. It gets tipped over, which then sets off sonic hedgehog, does its thing, and then boom, it activates CNR1.
Wow, a real chain reaction.
Exactly, and it's this cascade of activity that ultimately determines left and right in the developing embryo.
So it's like these genes are creating a kind of map telling the embryo, okay, put the heart over there.
Precisely. But here's the really cool thing about maps. You can redraw them.
What do you mean?
These researchers, they figured out how to actually manipulate the expression of these genes.
Wait, really? So they could control them, like flipping tiny biological switches.
You got it. Essentially turning them on or off in different parts of the embryo.
How is that even possible?
It involved some incredibly precise techniques, like injecting molecules that would either block or activate these genes at specific times. Talk about micromanagement.
That's incredible. Injecting molecules, that's like performing microsurgery on genes.
It really is. And the results were mind-blowing. Remember how we were talking about the heart looping to the left?
Yeah.
Well, when they started messing with the expression of these genes, especially activin and SH, they found they could actually make the heart loop the wrong way.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah,
So they're literally directing the heart, like left, right, left, right.
More like left, left, left.
Yeah,
They're setting up this system of molecular coordinates.
like a GPS for the heart.
Exactly. And the heart just follows those coordinates to figure out where it's supposed to be.
That is wild. This is honestly blowing my mind. But let's be real for a second. Why should I care about which way a chicken's heart loops?
Because this isn't just about chickens. This is about the fundamental processes that make us, well, us.
Okay, I'm listening.
And it's not just theoretical either. This research has real implications for human health, especially when it comes to birth defects.
Oh, right, like in those rare cases where people's organs are reversed.
Exactly. Cetus in versus
Cetus what?
cetus in versus, it's a condition where the internal organs are basically flipped, like a mirror image, heart on the right, liver on the left.
Wow, I remember reading about that, and it's not always a problem, right?
Right. It's not always life-threatening,
Right.
but it can definitely lead to some serious complications.
So by understanding how these genes work, scientists could potentially prevent or even treat those conditions.
Potentially. Yes. I mean, if we can identify the genes and figure out their role in this whole left-right setup, then we can start to understand what might be going wrong in cases of cetus inversus cycles.
Kind of like comparing a well-built house to one where the foundation is a bit off.
Exactly. Once you know where the blueprints went wrong, you're one step closer to fixing the problem.
That makes a lot of sense. So this 1995 research, it wasn't just some random discovery. It was like laying the groundwork for understanding human development and all the things that can go wrong.
Absolutely. And remember, this was 1995. We've made some incredible leaps in genetics and developmental biology since then.
I can only imagine.
So who knows what we'll discover in the next 20 years.
Exciting times. So we've talked a lot about the heart, but are there other organs that are affected by this whole left-right signaling cascade? We're not perfectly symmetrical on the inside, right?
That's a great question. And it gets to the heart of why this research is so fascinating. We've been talking about the heart because it's the most obvious example of left-right asymmetry.
Sure, it's the most visible, I guess.
Exactly. But it's certainly not the only one. Your brain, for example, it has two hemispheres. They work together, but they also have different functions.
Right, like the whole left brain, right brain thing.
Yeah, exactly. And your gut has a distinct left-right arrangement. Even your lungs are slightly different shapes.
So this whole left-right thing, it's like a domino effect throughout the entire body. It's not just about the heart. It's like this whole hidden choreography, this intricate dance of molecules that determines the blueprint for our bodies. It's mind-blowing. I never realized just how much complexity goes into something as seemingly simple as left and right.
That's the beauty of science, isn't it? It takes something we completely take for granted, something we never even think about, and then boom, reveals this whole universe of complexity underneath the surface.
Absolutely. It really makes you appreciate the elegance of biology, even at the tiniest level.
Totally. And this 1995 paper, by revealing these molecular cues that guide the heart, it opened the door to understanding how this intricate dance plays out across the entire developing embryo. It really was a game changer.
Yeah. So, to wrap things up, what's the big takeaway here? What's the one thing you really want our listeners to remember?
It showed us that something as fundamental as left-right asymmetry, it's controlled by these tiny molecular switches, these genes. They're like a microscopic construction crew telling each organ where to go.
It's like they found the first few lines of code in a program that's responsible for building an entire organism. It's incredible.
Exactly. And just imagine what we might discover in the next 20 years. What other mysteries of the human body are waiting to be unlocked?
It boggles the mind.
It really does.
Well, I think that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Time flies when you're talking about groundbreaking science.
That it does. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure picking your brain.
The pleasure was all mine. Always happy to talk shop, especially when it comes to these mind-blowing discoveries.
Until next time, keep those brains curious.